Now we are on to listening section of test 3, listening part. So we have four section in all. This is section 1. So I'm going to play the audio script or tape script for you, and on the basis of that we are going to answer this. So just listen the audio carefully, then I'm going to answer it. And meanwhile, while this audio is going on, I would try to highlight the answer or point the answers so that on the go we are able to find how to extract the answers. So let me play it for you. This is a copyright material of Cambridge University.
Cambridge IELTS 8 by University of Cambridge ESOL Examinations. Published by Cambridge University Press. This recording is copyright. CD2. Test 3. You will hear a number of different recordings, and you will have to answer questions on what you hear. There will be time for you to read the instructions and questions, and you will have a chance to check your work. All the recordings will be played once only. The test is in 4 sections. At the end of the test, you will be given 10 minutes to transfer your answers to an answer sheet. Now turn to section 1. Section 1. You will hear an estate agent talking to a customer who wants to rent a house. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 8.
So these are the questions for first part of the recording, and this will be some requirements will be filled in, like name, number of bedrooms is already there. So preferred location, you have to find it out in the dash area of town. Maximum monthly rent, what would be length of let required, and starting September 1st. Then coming to various parts, is various addresses are there, and what will be the rooms and monthly rent. So you have to find out the problems what are being told. And here in Hamilton Road,
you will see that there is an example that has been done for you.
This has been already done.
On this occasion only.
Okay.
The conversation relating to this will be played first. Good morning. How can I help you?
Hello. I'm interested in renting a house somewhere in the town.
Right. Could I have your name, please?
Yes, it's Stephen Godfrey.
And tell me how many bedrooms you're looking for.
Well, we'd need 4 because I'm going to share the house with 3 friends.
The number of bedrooms needed is 4, so 4 has been written in the space. Now we shall begin. You should answer the questions as you listen, because you will not hear the recording a second time. Listen carefully, and answer questions 1 to 8. Good morning, how can I help you?
Hello, I'm interested in renting a house somewhere in the town.
Right. Could I have your name, please?
Yes, it's Stephen Godfrey.
And tell me how many bedrooms you're looking for.
Well, we'd need 4 because I'm going to share the house with 3 friends.
Okay. There are several of that size on our books. They mostly belong to families who are working abroad at the moment. What about the location?
It'd be nice to be central.
That might be difficult, as most houses of that size are in the suburbs. Still, there are a few. What's your upper limit for the rent?
We'd like something around £500 a month, but we could go up to £600 if we have to. But we can't go beyond that.
Do you know how long you want to rent the house for? The minimum let is 6 months, as you probably realise.
We're at college here for 2 years, and we don't want to have to move during that time if we can avoid it.
Right. And how soon do you want to move in? All our lets start on the 1st of the month.
Well, as soon as possible, really. So that means September 1st.
Okay. Let me have a look at what we've got. We have photographs of all the houses on our book, so you can get an idea of what they're like. There's this one in Oakington Avenue at £550 a month, combined living room and dining room with a separate kitchen. It doesn't have a garage, though you can park in the road.
We prefer to have one, if possible.
Right. Then have a look at this house in Mead Street.
Mm-hmm.
It's got a very large living room and kitchen, bathroom, cloakroom.
How much is it?
That one's £580. It's very well furnished and equipped. It also has plenty of space for parking, and it's available for a minimum of a year. Oh, and there's a big garden.
I don't think we could cope with that, to be honest. We'll be too busy to look after it.
Okay. Then there's this older house in Hamilton Road. Living room, kitchen, diner, and it has a study. £550 a month.
That looks rather nice. But whereabouts in Hamilton Road?
Towards the western end.
Oh, that'll be very noisy. I know the area.
Yes, it's pretty lively. Some people like it, though. Well, what about this house in Devon Close?
That looks lovely.
There's a big demand for houses in that area, so prices tend to be quite high. But this one hasn't been decorated for a few years, which has kept the rent down a bit. It's got a living room, dining room and small kitchen, and it's $595 a month. I think it would suit you from what you've said.
Sounds fine.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 9 and 10.
So we have just heard about a conversation. So we have tried to highlight the answers, but let us go ahead and try to find out what the conversation is or the conclusion of the conversation, so that we are able to answer the section 1. So let me play it for you.
Now listen and answer questions 9 and 10.
Why is that part of town so popular?
Well, there's a big scheme to improve the district, and it'll soon have the best facilities for miles around.
What sort of thing?
There's a big sports centre under construction, which will be very impressive when it's finished. In fact, the swimming pool's already opened, ahead of schedule, and it's attracting a lot of people.
What about cinemas? Are there any in the area?
The only one closed down last year, and it's now in the process of being converted into a film museum. The local people are trying to get a new cinema added to the scheme.
I think I heard something about a plan to replace the existing concert hall with a larger one.
Ah, that's due to start next year.
Well, it sounds an interesting area to live in. Could I go and see the house, please?
Yes, of course.
So now we have just
That's the end of section
heard
1.
about. So this is section
Now
1.
you have half a minute to check your answers.
You have half minute to check the answers. So now we are going to see what we have done and try to answer them seriously. Well, most of us might have got the right answer, but let us formally answer them now. So the first one was preferred location. It was central, and maximum monthly rent they talked about. Or Godfrey said that he is ready to pay 500 and at maximum of 600. So we'll take 600 as the maximum because maximum is being asked. And length of the let required because they are there for 2 years and they don't want to relocate. So that will be 2 years. And about 4 to 8, question 4 to 8, Ockingen Avenue. The problem is there is no garage, so you have to write garage also. And in Mid Street, it was being told that the garden is too large. For this, Godfrey replied that they wouldn't be able to manage it actually. Then Hamilton Road, living room, kitchen diner, and a study. So it is study. 550, and this is too noisy. That was being told. And about Devon House, living room, dining room, small kitchen, and the amount was 595. Whereas in this we have heard, the conversation was like this. I tried to highlight this sports center is not ready. Swimming this B, two facilities in the district, they close or open to the public. Only the open places are, as you have heard very closely, these are concert hall. This concert hall, and then you have swimming pool. So sports center, as you might have heard, that it is not open, though it is there. Some work is going on, so it will be your concert hall and swimming halls. That will be B and E. Now we are on to section 2, and again I'll play the audio script for you.
Section 2. You will hear a man talking on the radio about a national arts centre. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 16.
So this is well known for complex consists of these and this. So you have to find out that whenever these people are speaking, what is exactly remaining. And historical background, you have to find out from 1960s to 1970s, center was dash and managed by whom and open this days per year. So your eye should be and your ear should be,
Now listen carefully and answer questions 11 to 16.
Hello, and welcome to Focus on the Arts. I'm your host, Dave Green, and this is your very own local radio program. Every Friday evening, we put the spotlight on different arts and culture facilities and look at the shows and events that are on offer in the coming week. And today, the focus is on the National Arts Centre. Now, if you don't already know it yourself, I'm sure you've all heard of it. It's famous throughout the world as one of the major venues for classical music. But did you know that it's actually much more than just a place to hear concerts? The centre itself is a huge complex that caters for a great range of arts. Under a single roof, it houses concert rooms, theatres, cinemas, art galleries, and a wonderful public library, as well as service facilities including 3 restaurants and a bookshop. So, at any one time, the choice of entertainment there is simply enormous. So, how did they manage to build such a big arts complex right in the heart of the city? Well, the area was completely destroyed by bombs during the war in 1940. So the opportunity was taken to create a cultural centre that would be what they called the city's gift to the nation. Of course, it took a while for such a big project to get started, but it was planned in the 60s, built in the 70s, and eventually opened to the public in 1983. Ever since then, it has proved to be a great success. It's not privately owned, like many arts centres, but is still in public hands. It's run by the City Council. Both our National Symphony Orchestra and National Theatre Company were involved in the planning of the project, and they're now based there, giving regular performances every week. And as the centre is open 363 days of the year, there are plenty of performances to choose from.
Before you hear the rest of the broadcast, you have some time to look at questions 17 to 20.
Now these are questions 17 to 20. We have tried to write the answers here, but I'm formally answering them just now. And this is 17 to 20. No more than 3 words or numbers. Date, time, event, venue, ticket price. So you watch out for this.
Now listen and answer questions 17 to 20.
So, to give you some idea of what's on, and to help you choose from the many possibilities, we've made a selection of the star attractions. If you're interested in classical music, then we recommend you go along to the National on either Monday or Tuesday evening at 7:30 for a spectacular production of the Magic Flute, probably the most popular of all Mozart's operas. It's in the Garden Hall, and tickets start at only £8, but you'll have to be early if you want to get them that cheap. And remember, it's only on for those 2 evenings. For those more interested in the cinema, you might like to see the new Canadian film, which is showing on Wednesday evening at 8 p.m. in Cinema 2, and that's called 3 Lives. It's had fantastic reviews, and tickets cost just £4.50, which is a reduction on the usual price of £5.50. So, it's really good value, especially for such a great movie. But you can see the centre's main attraction at the weekend, because on Saturday and Sunday, 11 a.m. to 10 p.m, they're showing a wonderful new exhibition that hasn't been seen anywhere else in Europe yet. It's a collection of Chinese art called Faces of China. That's in Gallery 1, and it has some really fascinating paintings and sculptures by leading artists from all over China. And the good news is that it's completely free, so don't miss it. So why not go along to the National Arts Centre next week for one or all of these great events? And you can always pick up a programme and check out all the other performances and exhibitions on offer, or coming soon, on almost every day of the year. Next week, we'll be looking at the new Museum of Science.
So now this was the audio script, and we will now formally try to answer these questions being posed after this audio script. So let us straight go to the question 11, and here the answer is the CMI wrote, that is actually classical music or classical music concepts. And here the answer is bookstore. Bookstore means that will be a continuous word, bookstore or bookshop. And now here actually center was planned. This is planned and built in 1983, opened to public in 1980s. And it is open. It is managed by, first of all, managed by, this is 15th, so this is managed by City Council. This is City Council. And open 363 days per year. Now coming to the other part, 17 to 20. Monday and Tuesday, Magic Flute. The venue is the Garden Hall. And Wednesday, the Canadian film, that it is called as 3 Lives. You have to write 3 here, not 3, not numeral, but 3 here. 3 Lives. The amount is 4.50. The Saturday and Sunday art exhibition, which is known as Faces of China. Now we are on to section 3, and what we are going to do here is again play audio script for you. So just listen carefully. I'll be showing you on the screen what exactly is going on and trying to answer. So this is 21 to 26. There will be 2 parts. 27 to 30 will be the second part. So listen it very carefully. This is section 3 for you.
Section 3. You will hear a university tutor and a new student called Paul discussing Paul's work experience and Latin American Studies course. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 26.
So this is Paul decided to get work experience in South America because he wanted. So you have to watch out for that. What project work did Paul originally intend to get involved in? Why did Paul change from one project to another? In the village community, he learned how important it was. What does Paul say about his project manager? And Paul was surprised to be given dash. So these are the questions, and now the audio script will come, and you have to see what the speaker has to say, and finally we'll choose one of the options from 21 to 26.
Now listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 26. I've been reading your personal statement, Paul. First, let's talk about your work experience in South America. What took you there? Was it to gain more fluency in Spanish?
Well, as I'm combining Spanish with Latin American studies, my main idea was to find out more about the way people lived there. My spoken Spanish was already pretty good, in fact.
So you weren't too worried about language barriers?
No. In fact, I ended up teaching English there, although that wasn't my original choice of work.
I see. How did you find out about all this?
I found an agency that runs all kinds of voluntary projects in South America.
What kind of work?
Well, there were several possibilities.
You mean construction, engineering work?
Yes, getting involved in building projects was an option. Then there was tourism, taking tourists for walks around the volcanoes, which I actually chose to do. And then there was work with local farmers.
But you didn't continue with that project. Why not?
Because I never really knew whether I'd be needed or not. I'd thought it might be difficult physically, but I was certainly fit enough. No, I wanted to do something that had more of a proper structure to it, I suppose. I get demotivated otherwise.
What do you think you learned from your experience? It must have been a great opportunity to examine community life.
Yes, but it was difficult at first to be accepted by the locals. It was a very remote village, and some of them were reluctant to speak to me, although they were always interested in my clothes and how much I had to pay for them.
Well, that's understandable.
Yes, but things soon improved. What struck me was that when people became more comfortable with me and less suspicious, we really connected with each other in a meaningful way.
You made good friends?
Yes, with two of the families in particular.
Good. What about management? Did you have a project manager?
Yes, and he gave me lots of advice and guidance.
And was he good at managing too?
That wasn't his strong point. I think he was often more interested in the academic side of things than filing reports. He was a bit of a dreamer.
And did you have a contract?
I had to stay for a minimum of 3 months. My parents were surprised when I asked to stay longer, 6 months in the end. I was so happy there.
And did anything on the administration side of things surprise you? What was the food and lodging like?
Simple, but there was plenty to eat, and I only paid $7 a day for that, which was amazing, really. And they gave me all the equipment I needed, even a laptop.
You didn't expect that then?
No.
Well, I look forward to hearing more. Before you hear the rest of the discussion, you have some time to look at questions 27 to 30.
Now these are questions 27 to 30. What does Paul decide about each of the following modules? Like gender studies in Latin America, second language acquisition, indigenous women's lives, and Portuguese language studies. So he'll do this, he might or he won't.
Now listen and answer questions 27 to 30. But now let's look at these modules. You'll need to start thinking about which ones you'll definitely want to study. The first one here is gender studies in Latin America. It looks at how gender analysis is reconfiguring civil society in Latin America. Women are increasingly occupying positions in government and in other elected leadership positions in Latin America. I think you'd find it interesting.
If it was to do with people in the villages rather than those in the public sphere, I would.
Okay. What about second language acquisition?
Do you think I'd find that useful?
Well, you've had some practical experience in the field. I think it would be.
I hadn't thought about that. I'll put that down as a definite then.
Okay. What about indigenous women's lives? That sounds appropriate.
I thought so too, but I looked at last year's exam questions and that changed my mind.
Don't judge the value of the course on that. Maybe talk to some other students first, and we can talk about it again later.
Okay.
Yes, and lastly, will you sign up for Portuguese lessons?
My Spanish is good, so would I find that module easy?
Not necessarily. Some people find that Spanish interferes with learning Portuguese. Getting the accent right, too. It's quite different in a lot of ways.
Well, I'd much sooner do something else then.
Alright. Now, what we need to do...
So this was from 27 to 30.
That is the end of section 3.
Section 3.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now you have some time always to check the answers. And I tried to highlight these answers. But I'll formally
Section 4.
answer them. So before going to section 4, let us try to answer these from 21 to 30. So 21. Paul decided to get work experience in South America because he wanted to learn about Latin American life. 22nd was what project work did Paul originally intend to get involved in? And this was again tourism. And the other person talked about construction, but he was interested in and he did tourism. And the 23rd was why did Paul change from one project to another? About that he said his first job was not well organized. The 24th, in the village community he learned how important it was, 24th, to develop trust first. And once it is done, it will all be easy. 25th, what does Paul say about his project manager? He was very supportive to Paul. This is what I highlighted. Paul was surprised to given 26th. Now, initially, you might be tempted to answer this one, an extension to his contract, about his parents being surprised on his extension. But finally, after a few sentences, we realize that he was surprised for this computer to use. Then what about these choices? Means he will, he might, he won't. 27 was general or gender studies in Latin America. And for this, 27, it was he won't do this. So he will not do this. 27 would be C. The second language, that is second language acquisition, 28, and he will do this. That is A. That is what I pointed. And indigenous women lives, 29. That was actually 29, and he might do this. So we'll write B here. And Portuguese language studies. Portuguese language studies. For this, again, he won't do this. This is what I pointed. So he won't do this. This is C. So this is how we answer. Sometimes you have to listen and just remember. Some questions are answered then and there. Some may you have some time to half a minute or so. So you can just fill it those answers, those one or two points which you left. Now we are coming to question number section 4. That will be our questions 31 to 40. So I will play the audio script, and meanwhile I'll try to highlight the things which are going on. So let us directly go to the audio script first, and then meanwhile we'll talk.
Section 4. You will hear a lecture about success in business systems. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40.
So this is about trying to repeat success. First is compared to introducing new business processes, attempt to copy existing processes are. Most research into the repetition of success in business has. What does the speaker say about consulting experts? And an expert knowledge about a business system may be incomplete because. So this is what the first content would be. So you have to be very cautious what you choose in these three options. So just listen to the audio script very carefully about trying to repeat success. 31 to 34, and then we'll go to 35 to 40, and that will be other part of the audio script. So this will be 6 questions, only one.
Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40. Good morning, everyone. In the last few lectures, I've been dealing with business finance, but now I'm going to move on to business systems. And in today's lecture, I'm going to talk about what can go wrong when businesses try to copy their own best practices. Once a business has successfully introduced a new process, managing a branch bank, say, or selling a new product, the parent organization naturally wants to repeat that success and capture it, if possible, on a bigger scale. The goal then is to utilize existing knowledge and not to generate new knowledge. It's a less glamorous activity than pure innovation, but it actually happens more often, as a matter of fact. However, surprisingly, getting things right the second time is not necessarily any simpler than it was the first time. Now, there's been a lot of research into how companies can repeat their previous successes, and it certainly hasn't been confined to the United States. It seems that most large industries are trying to repeat their own successes and manage the knowledge they've acquired. But even so, it has been shown that the overwhelming majority of attempts fail. A host of studies confirm this, covering a wide range of business settings: branch banks, retail stores, real estate agencies, factories, call centers, to name but a few. So why do so few managers get things right the second or third time? Let's consider one reason for failure: placing too much trust in the people who are running the successful operation, the experts, shall we say. Managers who want to apply existing knowledge typically start off by going to an expert, such as the person who designed and is running a successful department store, and picking their brains. Now, this approach can be used if you want to gain a rough understanding of a particular system, or understand smaller, isolated problems. The trouble is, even the expert doesn't fully grasp the whole thing, because when it comes to complex systems, the individual components of the process are interwoven with one another. The expert never has complete access to the necessary information. And the situation's complicated even further by the fact that experts are usually not aware of their own ignorance. The ignorance can take various forms. For instance, a lot of details of the system are invisible to managers. Some may be difficult to describe, learned on the job, and well known by workers perhaps, but impossible to describe in a way that's helpful. And there are some things that people know or do that they're not even aware of.
Now 35 to 40.
Now, let's consider two types of mistake that can occur when a manager actually starts to set up a duplicate system to replicate a successful process. Firstly, perhaps he forgets that he was just trying to copy another process and starts trying to improve on it. Another mistake is trying to use the best parts of various different systems in the hope of creating the perfect combination. Unfortunately, attempts like these usually turn out to be misguided and lead to problems. Why? Well, for various reasons. Perhaps there weren't really any advantages after all, because the information wasn't accurate. Or perhaps the business settings weren't really comparable. More typically, the advantages are real enough, but there are also disadvantages that have been overlooked. For example, the modifications might compromise safety in some way. So, what's the solution? Well, I don't intend to suggest that it's easy to get things right the second time. It's not. But the underlying problem has more to do with attitudes than the actual difficulty of the task. And there are ways of getting it right. These involve adjusting attitudes, first of all. Being more realistic and cautious, really. Secondly, they involve exerting strict controls on the organizational and operational systems. And this, in turn, means copying the original as closely as possible. Not merely duplicating the physical characteristics of the factory, but also duplicating the skills that the original employees had. Reliance on a template like this offers the huge advantage of built-in consistency. That is the end of section 4. You now have half a minute to check your answers.
So now we have just heard this conversation, not conversation, but advice actually. And now let us try to answer them. We have half a minute, so we'll answer them one by one, right from this 31. So this is compared to introducing new business processes. Attempts to copy existing processes are more frequent. B is the answer. 32 is most research into the repetition of success in business has. 32, the answer is B, produce consistent findings, right? This was being told that has been done outside the United States, but the reason or the indication of this question is produced consistent findings. What about 33? 33, the answer was B. What does the speaker say about consulting experience? It can be useful in certain circumstances, right? So this was the answer. Then 34. An expert knowledge about a business system may be incomplete because 34, and this was A. Some details are difficult for workers to explain. Then what about these 35 to 40? Create an ideal combinations should be good. And here disadvantages were overlooked. Effect of changes on safety. This is safety. Here we have changing attitudes, impose regular controls, and then physical features on the factory, and then the skills of original employees. So this is how we go on for our listening test. We need to read them first and try to extract the exact answer, because the answer would not be in the same language or sentence what is being asked. So this is the end of test 3 listening. Thank you so much. Take care.